I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually sit with it for a second before you answer. Does your life feel meaningful? Not successful, not busy, not fine, but meaningful. You know, in my work, I talk to a lot of people, and what I keep hearing underneath all the productivity and the hustle and the carefully curated version of life that people show the world is something that is coming up more and more. Something's missing. People tell me they don't know what it is, but something's missing. And if that's you right now, I want you to know something before we go any further. That feeling is not a character flaw. It's not ingratitude, and it's certainly not weakness. It's a signal. And today I want to help you understand what it's actually pointing to and what to do about it. So I do a lot of research. I'm always looking to find out the latest trends, the newest data, so I can see what's going on for people. And I have been absolutely shocked when I've been looking at some recent data. Over the last decade, researchers have tracked a significant rise in people describing their lives as meaningless. Not just unhappy, not just stressed, not just overwhelmed, but meaningless. That specific word, that specific hollowness. And here's the part that really got me. It's not showing up the most in people who have the least, which is maybe what you might expect. It's showing up in high achievers. So it's showing up in students at elite universities and colleges, and people who've worked incredibly hard. They've hit every goal they've set for themselves, and they've arrived to find the room empty, which tells us something important. This isn't a resources problem. It isn't a success problem. It's a meaning problem, and meaning is a completely different thing. So here's how researchers break down happiness. It's got three components. Enjoyment, which is the pleasure that you get from daily life. Satisfaction, that's the sense of accomplishment you get from your work, whether you're retired or not, it doesn't matter. And meaning, the feeling that your life matters, that it's got direction, that you understand why you're here. And when they started looking at which of these three had declined, the answer was unambiguous. Like enjoyment, people are good. Satisfaction, especially amongst achievers, is high. But meaning, when the conversation turned to meaning, it got problematic. And the data shows that the single biggest predictor of depression and anxiety in people under 30 is one sentence: my life feels meaningless. So something is specifically blocking meaning. And I want to walk you through exactly what that something is, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I want to introduce you to a concept called the doom loop. Here's how it works, and see if this sounds familiar. You feel restless, you feel bored, a little anxious, maybe lonely. These are uncomfortable states, and your brain wants relief. So you reach for something that makes you feel a little better in the moment. And it works for a minute, but then the feeling comes back, often stronger. So you reach again, and the thing that was supposed to help you starts to become the thing that's keeping you stuck. So the relief is real, but it's short, and chasing it keeps the underlying problem alive. You can get into a doom loop with alcohol. You can get into a doom loop with food, with work, with anything that offers short-term comfort at the expense of long-term well-being. But right now, the most widespread doom loop in human history is playing out in your pocket. The average person checks their phone 205 times a day, 13 times per waking hour, and more than once every 5 minutes. And I know what you might think. That's because these apps are designed to be addictive. And yes, the design is intentional, but the deeper reason, the reason underneath the reason, is that people are bored. Genuinely, profoundly bored and anxious and a little empty. And the phone is the fastest hit of stimulation. So you pick it up when you're restless. You feel slightly less restless. You put it down again. The restlessness comes back. Now it's worse because you just trained your brain to expect constant input. So the threshold for boredom drops even lower, and the pull of the phone gets stronger, and the loop tightens. But here's the piece I really want you to understand, because this is where it connects directly to meaning. Neuroscience has shown us that the two sides of your brain do fundamentally different things. So the left side, the analytical side, handles problem solving. So logic, efficiency, it handles the how and the what questions. That's the side you're using when you're on your phone. That's the side you're using when you're answering emails, when you're scrolling, when you're optimizing and consuming and reacting. So the left side of your brain has no access to meaning. So meaning lives on the right side of your brain, the side that sits with mystery, that responds to beauty, that holds the big questions that don't have clean answers. It's the side that feels moved by music, by nature, by watching someone do something genuinely generous for a stranger. When you spend your whole day on your phone, you are spending your whole day on the wrong side of your brain to find what you're actually looking for. And then you put your phone down at night and you feel empty and you don't know why, so you pick it up again. That's the loop. And I want to help you break it. So let's talk about what meaning actually is, because I think most people have a vague, foggy sense of it, the thing that they're supposed to be chasing, without really ever understanding what it's made of. Meaning comes down to 3 questions. And when you can answer all 3, something shifts. Life starts to feel like it has weight and direction and purpose in a way that no achievement, no purpose, no amount of scrolling can manufacture. So the first question is this: why do things happen the way they do? This is called coherence. And what it actually means is, do you have a framework for making sense of the world, of what happens to you, of good and bad, or why life unfolds the way it does? I know this sounds philosophical, but it's actually incredibly practical. Human beings can't actually function without some kind of answer to this question. We need to be able to make sense of things, especially the painful things, the random things, the things that don't feel fair. So here's something that I find fascinating. When people go into conspiracy theories, when they fall down rabbit holes and start believing elaborate explanations for how the world works, that's not stupidity. That is a coherence crisis looking for an exit. So it's a desperate attempt to answer the question, why is the world the way it is? So the instinct is completely human. We all need coherence. The question is whether the framework you build is actually true and actually serves you. So if you feel like life is just random and senseless and things keep happening to you without a reason, that's the coherence gap, and filling it is the first step towards meaning. So the second question is, why am I doing what I'm doing? This is purpose, and it's not about having a grand mission statement or a 5-year plan. It's simpler than that. It's having a direction. It's having a sense of moving towards something that matters. A reason that gets you up in the morning, that goes beyond obligation. So without it, you're busy, but you're not going anywhere. And we're not built for that. We're built to move towards things. So when there's no toward, there's no meaning. And you feel it even when you can't name it. The third question, and this one cuts the deepest, is why does my life matter and to whom? So this is significance. And I want to be honest with you about what the research shows here, because it might not be what you expect. Significance can't be manufactured alone. You can't achieve your way to it. You can't accumulate your way to it. You can't build a large enough following online to finally feel it. Significance comes from being genuinely present in the life of other people. It comes from mattering to someone in a real, tangible way, from being seen, from truly seeing others. That's it. That's what we're all actually chasing underneath everything else. So I want to paint a picture. I want you to be honest with yourself. about how much of it sounds like your life. All right? A young man, 27 years old, is walking a researcher through his average day. He wakes up, he checks his phone. He works all day on Zoom. After work, he opens a dating app, swipes for a while, maybe matches with a few people. He catches up with friends on social media. He games in the evening because it gives him a sense of accomplishment. He goes to sleep. And then he says something that floored the researcher. He said, "It feels like I'm living in a simulation." Because he is. Everything in his day was literally a digital proxy for a real human experience. Work without physical presence, socializing without genuine contact, dating without real vulnerability, accomplishment without real stakes. And here's the cruel trick of simulations. They satisfy just enough of the craving to keep you from going after the real thing, but never enough to actually fill you. So you swipe through hundreds of potential partners and you feel lonelier than before. Or you rack up hours in a game and you feel hollow when you put the phone down or the controller down. Or you spend an evening on social media and somehow you feel worse about your life than when you picked up your phone. You consume more content than any human being in history and you feel less informed, less connected, less alive, because your brain knows the difference. Even when you're not consciously registering it, even when you're telling yourself this is fine, this is just how modern life works, your brain knows it's receiving a simulation, and simulations can't deliver meaning. Here's a story I think about a lot. Same researcher, different conversation. So there's a guy, he's mechanical, he's good with his hands, and he's on a date with a woman that he met online. And she mentions offhand that her garbage disposal is broken and she doesn't know what to do about it. And he says, without thinking, "I'll fix it." So he goes to her place, he spends 30 minutes, he fixed the disposal, and he feels more genuine satisfaction in those 30 minutes than he's felt in months. And he goes home and he notices his own garbage disposal has been broken for a year. He never fixed it, because fixing something for yourself alone in your apartment, that doesn't create meaning. Doing it for someone else does. Now that story tells you everything about where meaning actually lives. It's not in the achievement, it's in the connection. It's in the giving of yourself to something outside of yourself. Okay, let's get practical because I don't want to leave you with a diagnosis and no direction. Here's what I know works. Not theoretically, but actually in practice. The first thing is to do harder things. All right, think about your great-great-grandfather. Your great-great-grandfather never had a panic attack behind his plow. Not because his life was easier, it was dramatically harder, but because his brain was doing exactly what it was built to do. Working hard, being physical, solving real problems with real consequences, and engaging with the actual world. When we don't do that, when we replace real effort with simulated effort, our brains don't work the way they're supposed to. The anxiety, the restlessness, the emptiness, a significant chunk of that is your brain starving for the kind of engagement it was built for. So do harder things. Pick up heavier things. Run somewhere. Build something. Fix something. Cook a real meal. Have a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Go outside and stay off your phone for an hour. I know that all of this might sound insultingly simple, but simplicity is not the same as easy. And the research is unambiguous on this. The second thing is to serve someone. This is the single most reliable shortcut to meaning that I've ever encountered in research or in life. Not a grand gesture, not a major life pivot, something small, something real. Go help a neighbor, volunteer somewhere, show up for a friend who's struggling, check in on them, fix someone's garbage disposal if you know how to. Get out of your own head and into someone else's life, even briefly, and watch what happens to the way your day feels. The phone becomes a lot less interesting when you've just done something that actually mattered. And the third thing is to start asking the right questions, not the questions that have Google answers. Those are just complicated facts. I'm talking about the questions that don't have clean answers, the ones that live on the right side of your brain. Why am I alive? What would I be willing to dedicate my life to? What kind of person do I actually want to be? What do I want the people closest to me to say about me when I'm not in the room? Write these questions down. Not to answer them definitively, you won't, not today, but to stay in relationship with them. Put them somewhere that you're going to see them. Like, let them work on you over time. Because the quality of your life is largely determined by the quality of the questions that you're willing to live with. And the fourth thing is to practice gratitude deliberately, daily. Not the gratitude that it's a performance, not the Instagram gratitude, the real kind, where you sit quietly for 5 minutes and you think, what is actually good in my life right now that I'm taking for granted? Because here's the truth. Our brains are wired to adapt to the good and fixate on the bad. It's a survival mechanism. It kept our ancestors alive, but it makes modern life feel far emptier than it actually is. Gratitude is the deliberate practice of counteracting that bias, and the research on it is overwhelming. That's why in the Happiness Baseline, my 8-week course, it's the first thing we look at, a really solid, little bit different from other people's gratitude practice, and people in the first week feel a shift in their happiness. So I want to leave you with something that I find genuinely beautiful. Sometimes meaning finds you, rather than the other way around. So there was a researcher who spent years studying happiness and meaning. He's built a whole career around it. And then he left his work for a while because he got burnt out and he didn't know what came next. So he did what humans have done for centuries when they don't know what to do. He went for a long walk, literally hundreds of miles across northern Spain, walking for days, getting blisters, getting tired, getting properly beaten down. And he said that was exactly what needed to happen. Because when you're exhausted and humbled and stripped of all the noise, that's when the aperture opens. That's when you become soft enough, open enough, quiet enough to receive something, right? I did the exact same thing as this researcher. I walked that same pilgrimage called the Camino. 500 miles I walked, 800 kilometers. And when I walked into that medieval city at the end of my pilgrimage, there was meaning there for me, the same as this researcher, not the other way around. It found him because he'd finally gotten out of his own way long enough to let it. You mightn't walk across Spain, but I think you know what it means to get out of your own way, to put the phone down, to stop simulating life, to start living it, to stop waiting for meaning to arrive through a screen and go and find it in the world and other people and the questions worth living with. It's there. It's been there the whole time. You just have to be still enough and brave enough to let it find you. Don't forget, the happiness quiz is in the description. Go and do it. You get a personalized report. Let's see where your happiness levels are at. As always, be kind. Take care. Go gently in the world.